Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to Namaste and Shit with Iena SpiritWalker, True Stories of a Mystic's Life. Today's title is My Cat Speaks English. And I'm going to talk to you today about my cat, Molly, who was adopted when we lived on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. Molly was so amazing. She's passed on now. When we adopted her, we went to the animal shelter and there were so many cats, of course. They were all so beautiful, but something with Molly just clicked. And if you've ever adopted an animal or taken on an animal in any way, you just click with some more than others. And little Molly hopped on my lap. I was sitting down and she showed me her belly, and that was it. We took her home that day, and Molly was a little different. Molly had scoliosis in her back. So she had short legs and her back was kind of hunched and her tail was very short, maybe the size of my pinky. And it was sort of like, it almost looked like it was stuck to her back leg and kind of curved to the side. And so, yeah, she needed some extra attention. So after I adopted her, I did some healing work on her and it really worked wonders for her. The tails are actually what help the kitty cats right themselves. They say cats always land on their feet, but if their tail isn't working the way it should, cats can't do that. So there were many times when Molly was, for example, on a chair and she was on her back wiggling around, showing us how cute she was, and she would fall off and literally fall flat on her back and actually just look completely embarrassed. We felt so sorry for her and gave her lots of love, but that's a challenge that a cat has. It doesn't have a tail. They can't really land on their feet. That's sort of their rudder. So over the course of the next few weeks and few months, Molly received regular healing treatments. And her little tail started loosening up. Her back was loosening up and her little tail it actually was able to come to a horizontal angle, and the little hook that went sideways was now hooking up. And that's about as good as it got. But she had way more mobility, but she definitely was not able to be an outdoor kitty. So we kept her indoors for her own safety. And she was so much fun. One of the favorite things she had to do, of course, this is something we found out accidentally, is that she loved to play with macadamia nuts. So we had some macadamia nuts, I guess we probably purchased in the shell. And we were renting a place that had hardwood floors, and something about the sound of the macadamia nut in the shell rolling on the hardwood floor, it was her favorite thing ever. She absolutely loved it. So unfortunately, our tenant below us was going a little crazy, but Molly absolutely loved rolling around her macadamia nuts. And now, I lived in Hawaii for 5 years with my kids and my husband at the time, and we actually got divorced. And due to financial reasons, I came back and actually had to stay with friends and family for a few years until I got back on my feet with my two children and Molly. And so Molly, my mom was just fascinated with her. My mom kept saying, I swear she speaks English, because my mom would say something to her. And Molly would make a facial expression like she understood. And, if my mom was asking, saying something that she would wish that Molly would do it. And my mom would say, there's no way, that's a coincidence. And I want to say here too, that all animals receive our thoughts and our words. They know exactly what's going on with us. Okay. Even if you're just thinking, human beings think in pictures, right? And animals receive in pictures very readily. So for example, think about when you get up in the morning, you think about, I'm going to go get in the shower, your mind pictures a shower, and then you walk to the shower, and then you think, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, and your mind sees that cup of coffee, and then you go get your cup of coffee. So when we are thinking throughout our day, we are sending out pictures, whether we realize it or not, and the animals are receiving them. So if you're sending out pictures of the animal being very stressed out and peeing all over the place, that's what the animal's like, okay, I got that. Pee all over the place, check. Usually it's when it happens one time and then we worry about it, and then it keeps happening because the animal's receiving the picture, et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole thing. So it's very important to be mindful of not only your words, but your thoughts, because the animals do receive them and they do understand them. Whether you understand them is a whole nother story, but they do receive them and they do understand. And Molly was just a bit more tuned in than most cats I had met and most animals I had known. And there was a point, it was in the winter time, we're staying in my parents' house, and it was very cold, it was snowy, and there's a wooded area along the side of their house, and the mice were starting to come in the house. So in the evening, you know, I would hear Molly downstairs running around, you know, because mice are nocturnal. Molly would run around downstairs and I knew she was chasing the mice. At the same time, my parents were also setting traps, and they have these mouse traps that, I don't know if you've seen them, the top and bottom kind of look like a jaw, and they literally like just chomp. Oh, it's really barbaric and disgusting. It definitely kills the mice, but it's very sad for me to see that. I absolutely love all animals, including mice. Mice actually were some of my dearest childhood friends. So as my parents kept changing the traps and all these mice were dying, Molly was sitting on my lap, and I verbally said to her, Molly, I want you to bring me the mice so I can put them back outside before Grandma and Grandpa kill them. That's all I said. And that evening, I had completely forgotten I said it. And that evening, we left the bedroom door open so Molly could go in and out. My daughter and I were staying in the same room, and my son was in a different room. And that evening, I was in the bathroom at the top of the steps, and I hear a muffled meow, meow. If you have cats, you know what that means, right? So I thought, oh my gosh, she had something in her mouth. And I looked down the steps, and here she comes with a mouse. That very evening, she comes up with a mouse. Here it comes. And so I called her into the bathroom, and I shut the door, and I told her to drop it. And now there's a mouse running around the bathroom. Shit, what do I do? So I'm trying to quietly wake up my daughter without waking up the rest of the house, asking her to get me a big mason jar or something so I can catch this mouse and let him outside. And it took a little finagling, but we figured it out. I captured the mouse pretty quickly, took him outside, no problem. Put him outside. Okay, brother, go find your family. And maybe 2 hours later, I was in bed and I was asleep, and I heard the muffled cry coming up the steps again. I began realizing that this may be a mistake. So I ran into the bathroom again. Molly brought the mouse once more. I caught the mouse, slipped my boots on, walked him out into the woods in the snow, put him back outside. That happened about 3 times the first night. So as the days, we're like 3 days in. So she was bringing me several mice an evening. Mind you, most of the times when she brought them, I was half asleep or already asleep. So I'm trying to like wake up and capture a mouse who, you know, is not happy and running very quickly. It was comical and also super frustrating. And on the third day, first of all, I started being concerned that, you know, maybe I'd be asleep with my mouth open and she'd start like plopping them in my mouth or something. So on the third day of Molly bringing me the mice, as I had asked her to do, she brings the mouse and brings it into the bathroom as we had set up those boundaries, drops the mouse, and I lost the mouse. I had him and then I lost him. And he literally ran out of the bathroom and down the steps. And she looked at me like, okay, that's fine. She ran back downstairs, got the mouse again, and I was giggling, and I also felt really bad. That same mouse, I dropped him 3 times. I dropped the same mouse 3 times. On the third time, she looked at me like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I was like, Molly, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So she finally caught the same mouse, and I finally felt really bad, but I I scooped up the mouse. I found him. I nicked his little tail by accident. I felt bad about that, but I got him and I took him outside, and Molly was so pissed at me. And I said to her, Molly, you're so amazing. Thank you so much for all that you've done. You've been really great. And I know I'm not really good at catching mice, but you've saved a lot of mice this week. Thank you so much. You don't need to do it anymore. You don't need to do it anymore. And she was like, okay. She never brought me any mice ever again. So that was Molly, who spoke English, which is what my mother said. But Molly was more tuned into me than some animals are. It's just like people. Some people, you really gel with them and you really get each other. And some people, you're like, not really. And that was kind of the special relationship that we had with her. She has passed on. And some of my favorite memories that I have with her include her hunting things. Her hunting instinct was crazy, even though she was an indoor cat. When we lived on Kauai, there were so many things for her to chase. So, and she told me one time, now, if you live in Hawaii, if you've never been to Hawaii, Hawaii has very large cockroaches. Okay. I think they're called Madagascar hissing cockroaches. And they're kind of like houseflies. I'm sorry to say, that's just the way it is. And so if you live in any kind of non-hermetically sealed house in Hawaii, your buddies are going to be there. And Molly loved to eat them. She told me she just thought they were just so fun and crunchy. She loved them, which really grossed me out, but she loved them. And the other thing that she would do, Hawaii also has geckos. And so geckos, when they're afraid, they throw their tail, meaning they have the capability to detach their tail, which is still wiggling, by the way, to distract the predator. So the predator goes after the tail and the gecko can get away. Many, many days, I would wake up to a pile of ants on top of a gecko tail that was sometimes still moving. But also, it was a good indication that she was just such an amazing hunter, and she was such a sweet little spirit, and I do miss her dearly. We have so many wonderful memories with her, and I just wanted to remind you on this podcast that, like I said before, animals really do understand you. They understand your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And animal communication is just really a matter of you understanding them as well. So they are always receiving your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I had one client who their dog would always get angry and start growling when she went to work. As the woman was leaving for work, she would always think, I really just want to stay here with him. And so for the dog could sense that the human really just wanted to stay, but the human was leaving. And animals don't really understand financial obligations and stuff like that. It was just that the human wanted to stay and she was leaving. The human says she's going to stay and she's leaving. It's kind of like the dog felt like the human was lying, if that makes sense. It's a little hard to explain, but it's kind of like that. Just another brief reminder that your animals do understand you. Now, you understanding them is a whole nother ballgame, but they understand your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. So mind what you say, think, and even your feelings are also absorbed and accepted by your animals as well. Well, my friend, I hope you really enjoyed this episode of Namaste and Shit with Iena SpiritWalker, True Stories of a Mystic's Life. This podcast is now available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and a few other venues, wherever you are. Oh, YouTube too, wherever you are. Please rate, like, share, do all the things. Get the word out. If this has been entertaining and enjoyable to you, I'm so grateful for your time here today. Thank you, my friend. Take care of yourself.